because I was in debt. I surrendered myself to the school's ice queen. I had to stay by her side for 5 long years, providing services without any limits. Rumor has it she doesn't care for men at all, but who would have guessed? On the very first night after we signed the contract, she completely exploded. Not only was she aggressive, stripping me naked and tying me to the bed, but she also viciously trampled me with feet that smelled like pickled mustard greens. Huff, huff! You smelly man still dare to look at me with those eyes? Just like that, I was toyed with day after day, year after year. At first, Sutu treated me somewhat politely, but gradually she began to lose her patience. Just because I accidentally glanced at her for a second while eating, she'd drag me into the room without a word, tie me up and torture me. I had to endure her stinky feet and her relentless exploitation. Finally, I've made it to the last day of the contract. At exactly 9 p.m. tonight, the front door was pushed open by Sutu. I quickly rushed forward, taking her coat with one hand, while placing her slippers neatly in front of her with the other, then asked, "Do you want to bathe first or eat dinner first?" She looked at her phone and replied indifferently, "Bathe first." The hands on the wall clock moved halfway around. Sutu stepped out from the bathroom, wearing a bathrobe, drying her hair as she walked toward me. Seeing that, I hurriedly handed her pajamas. While she changed, I went to the kitchen to bring out the food I'd just reheated. All of this was way too familiar to Sutu. Today she was in a great mood, glued to her phone, seemingly chatting with someone. As I walked past, I caught a glimpse of her phone screen lighting up. At the top, a name appeared clearly, Anduat. I averted my eyes and turned into the kitchen. Suddenly, the phone in my pocket vibrated. Looking at the screen, the name Tu Mao appeared. As soon as I picked up, the voice from the other end rang out, "Jang Triet, do you really want to divorce Nu Tweet?" I gazed at the epiphyllum flower under the lamplight from the window, silent for a long time, then whispered, "Ma'am, you know it too, I'm only by her side because of that contract. Now that the contract has expired, besides, Anduat has also divorced and returned to the country. She seems very happy lately and doesn't need me anymore." At the other end, Mother Toe sighed, her voice full of regret. "These 5 years you've suffered a lot. I know everything you've been through. I thought that with everything you've done, she would love you, but 0203, oh right. 5 years ago you gave up your study abroad opportunity for her. If you still want to go now, I can help you arrange it." Looking at the epiphyllum blooming before me, I was briefly dazed. Because of Sutu, my life has been stuck in one place for too long. It's time to move forward. Yes, I nodded slightly. Then thank you, ma'am. Please arrange it for me. I want to leave as soon as possible. After hanging up, the epiphyllum outside the window quietly withered, just like this 5-year marriage completely over. I was born into a poor family, but thanks to a scholarship from the Tu group, I was able to continue my education, and even excellently won the only exchange scholarship in the entire school. Therefore, before leaving to study abroad, I specifically went to the Tu family home to express my gratitude. I wasn't the only one sponsored by the Tu group, but I was the first to actively come and thank them. This made Mother Tu, who intended to just give a few social pleasantries, not help but look at me a few extra times. After hearing my intention clearly, she was silent for a long moment before speaking. "If you truly want to repay me, then do me a favor." From Mother Tu's story, I learned about the history between Sutu and Anduat. Sutu was a proud billionaire heiress. Anduat was a dashing, elegant young master. Both were born into prestigious families, growing up together since childhood. Everyone knew Sutu liked Anduat, but just because of one sentence from Anduat, "I want a peaceful love that lasts through time." She kept waiting silently. Finally, when they both graduated from university, Sutu thought the time had come and intended to confess her feelings. But just at that moment, Anduat suddenly revealed a new girlfriend, and even went abroad with her. Not believing this, Sutu rushed to the airport that very night to follow him, but got into a car accident on the way. After waking up from surgery, Anduat had already impulsively married abroad. From then on, Sutu locked herself in the house, drowning in alcohol. The once haughty, arrogant heiress had fallen into a tragic state. Right at this moment I appeared. Her mother decided to have me help her daughter escape this love. So to repay the favor, I gave up the study abroad opportunity and signed a 5-year contract with her. At a party, I deliberately pretended to coincidentally meet Sutu, acting like I fell in love with her at first sight, then pursued her crazily. From then on, the entire upper class circle knew that besides Sutu, there was a man who loved her to the point of insanity. Gradually, she got used to my care, but still refused to take the next step. Until that day, she and some friends made a bet on a yacht. Whoever can get their boyfriend to jump into the sea to retrieve a dropped ring wins the plot of land in the north of the city. I knew very well that she had spent many sleepless nights wanting that land. While everyone else was still too afraid of the large waves to budge, I didn't hesitate for a second and jumped into the sea. That was the first time Sutu lost her composure because of me. She hugged me tightly when I was hauled up from the sea, her voice full of fear and trembling. "Let's get married. I will try to love you." But later I found out that she agreed to marry me that night, only because Onduit posted a photo on his personal page, a photo of him hugging and kissing his wife under the aurora. Even so, to complete the contract and to wipe away the shadow of Anne, do it in her heart. I still gave my all to treat her well. I cooked for her, meticulously looked after everything in the house. 3 years ago, I found out her childhood birthday wish was to see a meteor shower. But because her parents were busy with work, they never took her. Spent half a year searching for the mountain with the best view to watch, the meteor shower. However, that night I waited all night, but Sutu didn't show up. Later I found out she had gone to find Onduat, because back then, Onduat's marriage had begun to show cracks. From that day on, she went abroad once every week. Every time, she would prepare all kinds of novel gifts, bringing them to Onduat's doorstep to make him happy, without ever letting me know. The day Onduat returned to the country to meet him, just as he set foot at the airport, Sutu drove recklessly and had an accident. I stayed awake for 3 days and 3 nights watching over her hospital bed. But the person in a coma called Onduit's name 999 times. In that moment, I truly understood that the task Mother Tu entrusted to me I could never fulfill. But thankfully the contract had reached its term, and Onduit had divorced and returned to the country. Sutu had finally waited for the person she loved, and it was time for me to leave. From now on, both of us can start a new life. "Who are you talking to on the phone, Sue?" Tu waited and didn't see me come out. So she stood up and walked into the kitchen to look. Seeing me standing there, stunned staring at the phone, she couldn't help but wonder. I came to calmly answering, "It's nothing." The late night was quiet. Hearing Sutu's rhythmic breathing beside me, I opened my eyes wide, staring at the ceiling, awake all night. The next morning, seeing the Western-style breakfast on the table, Sutu couldn't help but frown. "You know I don't like Western food. Why did you make these today?" I lowered my head, picking up a fork to skewer a piece of steak, slowly chewing and swallowing. "There were only these things left in the fridge." No, actually, that wasn't it. It was just that I was preparing for my study abroad life, so I wanted to get used to the taste first. Luckily, the woman across from me didn't think much of it, placing her phone on the table, but her eyes were still glued to the screen, seemingly waiting for a message from someone. I didn't need to ask to know who she was waiting for. Suddenly, the phone vibrated. She immediately grabbed her phone. It seemed Onduit had just sent a message that made her very happy. The lips that were always cold gently curved up slightly. I quietly observed her for a moment, then took out the divorce papers I'd prepared long ago. From the moment I signed that contract, I had been preparing for this day. Now I was finally about to be set free. "Sutu, let's divorce." I spoke calmly, in a tone as light as if we were discussing today's weather. She was still immersed in her conversation with Onduat, not even hearing what I said, just indifferently replying, No, I wasn't surprised at all, because for the past 5 years, she had always been like this toward me, close yet distant. Now that Onduat had returned, she withdrew even the last bit of attention she had for me. Quietly, I flipped to the last page of the divorce papers and placed them with a pen in front of her, pointing to where she needed to sign. She was busy texting, while picking up the pen and signing exactly where I pointed. Without even bothering to read a single word, I put the divorce papers in my pocket, calmly saying, "Sutu, after a month of waiting to complete the procedures, I'll leave." She still only replied with one sound, then set down her knife and fork, stood up, and left the dining table. Watching her retreating figure, I finally couldn't help but call out, "Sutu." She paused, turning her head to look at me with a confused gaze. "Didn't you just talk about the charity shipment to the orphanage? The contract you just had me sign was about that, right? Didn't you talk about it beforehand? Why?" I laughed self-deprecatingly. "That aid contract. I had her sign it last month, as expected." She didn't pay any attention to me, nor did she hear clearly what I said. But that didn't even matter anymore. Let it be just like that. Sutu, just live happily with Onduat. I chuckled coldly. "It's nothing." In the afternoon, I drove to follow the convoy carrying charity supplies to the orphanage. After everything was finished, I went to the director's office to say goodbye. "Director, are you planning to go abroad to study further?" The director was overjoyed to hear it. I was once an excellent student in the fine arts department. Giving up the opportunity to study abroad back then had left me feeling regretful for a long time. "Jang Triet, that is truly such great news." Then, the director took my hand, smiling radiantly, but then became thoughtful and worried, asking, "But if you go abroad, won't you have to be far from Sutu?" Long-distance love isn't easy. I looked into the distance, where some children were happily playing, gently shaking my head. "It's not a temporary separation. She and I are already divorced." The director was briefly stunned, then let out a deep sigh. As I had guessed initially, the marriage of you two wouldn't last long. "Divorce is for the best." She patted my shoulder, her voice full of love and consolation. I also smiled, hugging the director. Yes, divorce is truly for the best. After leaving the orphanage, I drove straight to the villa. Going upstairs, I stepped into the dressing room, starting to pack my luggage. Only at this moment did I realize my clothes were pitifully few. They were mostly just a few outfits Mother 2 had given me when I first married. Through 5 years of marriage, my wife had never thought of buying me even a single outfit. Once I finished packing, I gathered all the gifts I had prepared for Sue 2 and went to sell them as scrap. But all these years wanting to make her happy, I always meticulously chose birthday gifts, but she never looked at them even once. They were all discarded, covered in a thick layer of dust. Watching the truck carrying the scrap heap drive away, I was just about to go back to the villa when suddenly from behind a sound rang out, a car horn. Turning back, I saw a Maybach stop right in front of me. Stepping out of the car was a woman in a red dress, my sister-in-law, Tajao. She glanced at the scrap truck that had just left, scoffed coldly, then turned to look at me from top to bottom, voice sarcastic. As expected, someone from a poor background, even caring about cardboard boxes enough to go sell them. I didn't bother to reply, turning to leave. However, the mocking smile on Zhao's face suddenly vanished. She abruptly stepped forward, trying to grab me. Since the moment I stepped into the 2 family home, I had always been submissive, trying to please them, never once treating anyone coldly like that. Now that I dared to show indifference toward her, Zhao's anger instantly flared up. Are you deaf? I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me? I turned back, brushing her hand away, annoyance flashing in my eyes. Zhao had long disliked me, always thinking that with my lowly status, I was absolutely unworthy of entering the 2 family. Therefore, throughout the 5 years of marriage, she always found ways to make things difficult for me, not just dumping the breakfast I made, but even intentionally stomping on the clothes I washed until they were dirty. Now that I was about to be set free, I no longer wanted to humble myself to please them. Zhao intended to keep causing trouble, but as if thinking of something, she flashed a mocking smile. Someone like you selling a bit more scrap paper is fine too. She crossed her arms, looking at me with a gaze full of contempt. You still don't know, right? My sister has finally waited for her bright moon to return. A parasite like you will finally have to get out. As soon as the words left her lips, a man in a white shirt stepped out from behind her. It was my first time meeting Anduat. His peach blossom eyes flashed with a gentle smile, his soft black hair, slightly messy skin, as porcelain white as silk, just wearing a simple white shirt, yet he radiated an indescribable, elegant aura. For 5 years, my fractured marriage hadn't left a single trace on him. No wonder Sue 2 remembered this man so fondly for so many years. Anduat gently pulled Zhao's hand. Tone gentle, Zhao, don't say that. After all, he is your brother-in-law. Zhao pouted, looking extremely dissatisfied. Brother-in-law? What brother-in-law? I told you in the car already. My sister has always loved you, never forgetting you all these years. Every week she flew abroad to find you. Those gifts were also bought by her for you. Don't you understand? After speaking, she turned to me, ordering, What are you still standing there for? Hurry and carry Anduat's luggage in. My sister has agreed to let him stay here. I glanced over the luggage, completely unresponsive, just turning and walking straight into the villa. Behind me, Zhao was so angry she stomped her feet repeatedly. In the end, the driver had to carry the luggage for Anduat. Zhao was just about to continue finding trouble when from the front door, Sue 2 hurriedly stepped inside. Her gaze swept around, and when she saw Anduat sitting peacefully on the sofa, she let out a sigh of relief as if a burden had been lifted. Then she turned to me and said indifferently, Anduat's house hasn't been lived in for a while and needs renovations. So during this time he will stay here for a few days. I didn't say anything. The space fell silent. At this moment, Anduat feigned pity as he stood up. His face was full of unease. Sue 2, maybe I should leave. After all, this is your home. He glanced at me, his tone slightly worried. He doesn't seem happy. Sue 2 immediately reached out to hold him back. No need to go anywhere. He is broad-minded and won't mind these small things. I watched the scene in front of me quietly, finally laughing, speaking slowly. That's right, I won't get angry over such a small matter. Mr. An, feel free to stay here. After all, this house will belong to you sooner or later anyway. Afraid Anduat still wanted to leave, Sue 2 immediately ordered the maid to clean up the largest living room for him. Zhao glanced triumphantly at me, her tone not hiding her contempt. Right, it's come to this point, what are you still standing there for? Why don't you hurry and cook dinner? Oh right, Anduat doesn't eat spicy food, make something light. But in this house, even though there are maids ever since the beginning, cooking has always been done by me alone, only because Sue 2 is picky and has high demands, that even Michelin chefs don't satisfy her. Only the food I make is she barely able to eat a little bit. But no matter how much effort I put in, she just casually picks at a few bites, never truly paying attention. Zhao also comes over occasionally, eating while complaining. At this moment, I just shook my head lightly, calmly dropping 3 words that left everyone stunned. I'm not cooking. Hearing my refusal, Su-tu reflexively turned to look at me, but in her memories, I never went against the Tu family. This was the first time I had refused her. Before she could even open her mouth, and Do It beside her suddenly had reddened eyes. It's my fault. I shouldn't have moved in here. After all, I'm just an outsider. How could I let him have to cook for me? Saying that, he turned to go upstairs to pack his luggage, but before he could even take a step, he was held tightly by Su-tu. It has nothing to do with you. Saying that, she turned to look at me, her tone dropping. Didn't you say you weren't angry? What's the meaning of this now? I calmly raised my hands, both my index and ring fingers covered in band-aids. My hands are injured. Lately I can't touch water. In reality, I wasn't injured at all. It was just that the contract had ended, and I didn't want to waste any more heart on Su-tu, so I deliberately stuck on a few band-aids as an excuse to refuse to cook. The atmosphere suddenly became suffocating. Up until now, everything in the house was handled by me alone, so by this time the maid would have already left. Now in the house besides me, no one else knew how to cook. It was too late to call the maid back. Zhao knit her brows, her voice full of irritation. Your hands are injured. Why didn't you say so earlier? Are you doing this on purpose to let us starve? She intended to step forward to reproach me, but Anduat hurriedly held her back. Zhao, don't be like that. He looked at Su-tu and smiled gently. Su-tu, you've been abroad for so long, I still remember. That hot pot place in front of our high school. I remember back then, whenever we got out of school late, we often went there to eat. Hearing this, Su-tu of course couldn't bear to refuse. Her voice was gentle. Okay, I'll take you there. Before leaving, they didn't forget to casually ask me to come along. On the way, too, Su-tu drove while chatting with the two in the back, recounting their high school memories, and Do It talked more and more enthusiastically, occasionally too. Zhao also chipped in a few sentences. The 3 of them laughed and talked happily. When they reached the high point, they couldn't help but burst into laughter. Halfway through laughing, and Do It suddenly seemed to remember something, turning to look at me sitting in the passenger seat, smiling apologetically. Sorry, Jiang Triet. It's not that we intentionally forgot you. It's just that you weren't present for those memories. Not only was I not present for those memories, but from now on, I won't be participating in your lives anymore either. I responded faintly, quietly closing my eyes. Su-tu rarely glanced at me, suddenly feeling that I seemed a bit strange. After parking, I made the excuse of going to the restroom first. Filling my hands with cold water, I splashed it on my face, looking at myself in the mirror. Delicate features, pale skin, yet I couldn't hide the fatigue between my eyebrows. We both had 5 years of marriage, but in Anduat's eyes he was full of vitality, while I was exhausted and weary. Just a little longer, I'm almost completely free, I told myself. When I returned to the private room, the 3 of them had already ordered. Make the hot pot broth clear, okay? And Do It doesn't eat meat. Order more vegetables, but no cilantro. Su-tu looked at the menu while instructing the server. Even after many years had passed, she still clearly remembered Anduat's eating preferences. Jiang Triet. Is there anything you're allergic to? For 5 years. This was the first time she had asked what I liked to eat. I sat beside her, pulling a tissue to wipe the 8 chopsticks in front of me. I'm allergic to seafood. For this hot pot, Su-tu only cared about picking food for Anduat, while she herself ate very little. Halfway through the meal, the table beside us suddenly started arguing. The matter became increasingly intense. Finally, the 2 men stood up, resorting to physical violence. The surrounding diners hurriedly rushed to intervene. Unexpectedly, one of the 2 hot-headed men picked up the boiling pot of hot pot and hurled it at the other. The other person panicked and dodged, but in the chaos, the hot pot flew straight toward our table. 7 piercing screams rang out. Su-tu reflexively turned, instantly shielding Do It, while I, not quick enough to dodge, could only watch with open eyes as the steaming pot of hot pot flew straight at me. In a split second, my whole body was covered in boiling hot pot broth. My pale arms immediately flushed red, blistering with burns. The searing pain felt like 10,000 needles stabbing into my skin, painful to the point I couldn't utter a word. Jiang Triet. Su-tu hurriedly let go of Anduat and ran to my side, for the first time panic appearing in her eyes. Are you in pain? I'll take you to the hospital. I looked up at her, pain spreading throughout my body, but no matter how much I tried, I couldn't utter a single word. Oh my God, Anduat, you're seriously injured. Hearing that, all of Su-tu's attention immediately shifted to Do It. She frantically rushed to his side. On Anduat's fair arm, only a few drops of hot pot oil had splattered. It looked frightening at first glance, but in reality it wasn't serious at all, and Do It pulled his hand back. Eyes red, shaking his head. I'm fine. Mr. Jiang is more seriously injured. You take him to the hospital first. Fine, what do you mean, fine? Since you were small, you were spoiled. Even playing a little makes you hurt all day. To Zhao impatiently pushed Su Tu. Sister, what are you still standing there for? Hurry and take and do it to the hospital. To Zhao impatiently stomped her feet, not forgetting to point and warn that group of people. What's wrong with you guys? If you want to argue, go outside and argue. If you hurt, undo it. My sister will definitely not let you off. At this moment, Anduit couldn't endure any longer, softly crying out in pain. It's really fine. Su Tu, you should check Mr. Zhang's wounds first. His fragile appearance made Su Tu's heart tighten. She didn't care about me, whose whole body was burning with pain, but immediately stooped down, supporting Anduat up and hurriedly running outside, but before leaving, as if suddenly remembering something, she showed a hint of regret. Anduat has been sensitive and afraid of pain since he was small. The hospital is nearby, you take a taxi there yourself. By the time the three of them disappeared from sight, I came too. Biting my teeth to endure the pain, I took a deep breath, trying to keep calm. Seeing me seriously injured but still abandoned, the server hurriedly ran over, apologizing while helping me with first aid. After taking painkillers, the pain subsided a little bit, at least not painful enough that I couldn't speak anymore. In the morning, I borrowed a set of clothes from the restaurant, changed and trembling stepped outside to hail a taxi to the hospital. The doctor held a cotton swab, pressing down on the blisters on my hand while cautioning, "Remember to apply medicine on time every day. That way it won't leave scars." I closed my eyes tightly, trying to endure the stinging pain. Right then, two nurses pushed a medicine cart past me, chatting as they walked. I'm telling you, the CEO treats Mr. An so well. Just from being burned by a few drops of hot pot oil, she booked the entire hospital floor and called every dermatologist for a consultation. Exactly, but the person who was seriously injured came this late. It's almost healed now. If I also had a woman as thoughtful as that who liked me, how great would that be? Haha, don't dream anymore. A woman of this type only appears once every 10,000 years. Once every 10,000 years, huh? I chuckled, abandoning her seriously injured husband, and turning to care for the one who was only slightly injured. She is indeed a once-in-10,000 years rarity. By the time my wounds were bandaged, I thanked the doctor and stood up to leave. Just stepping out of the hospital gate, my phone signaled a new message. Opening it, it was an admission notification letter from the foreign university I had applied to, reminding me that when arriving at school, for registration I needed to prepare a submission piece. 5 years had passed. Finally, I once again picked up the paintbrush. After buying pens and paints, I didn't return to the two-family home but went straight to Lam Nguit Mountain. The scenery here was truly beautiful. A tranquil lake nestled between rolling mountain ranges. The lake's surface was as flat as a mirror, reflecting every contour of the surrounding mountains. It was like a flawless masterpiece of nature. The fresh air instantly put my soul at ease. After 5 years of bottling things up, all my pressure melted away at this moment, leaving only a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in a long time. Inspiration came rushing in. My pen touched the blank paper, and in the blink of an eye, the scenery here gradually came to life. No noise, no dust from the world. Only the sound of birds echoing across the mountains and a gentle passing breeze. For 3 consecutive days, I immersed myself in that drawing, not turning on my phone until I went down the mountain to submit my proposal to the school. The moment I powered it up, a massive wave of missed calls and messages flooded in, completely taking over my screen. They were all from one person, Su Rushui. Nothing like this had ever happened before. In the past, I was always the one calling and texting her, while she never once reached out to me first, never even returning a single missed call. While I was dazed, my phone suddenly rang. It was Su Yao. The moment I pressed answer, a piercing voice from the other end blasted through. "Zhang Chie, where the hell have you been the past few days? Do you have any idea that my sister has been going crazy looking for you? Don't think doing this will get her attention. In your dreams, the only person qualified to be the master of the Su family is Anjaru." After chewing me out, Su Yao slammed the phone down, leaving me frowning. Did I hear that right? Su Rushui was frantically looking for me. What for? I intended to call Su Yao back to check if there was a mistake, but when I saw the number 108 missed calls from Su Rushui on the screen, I couldn't help but believe that she was truly desperate to find me. Carrying this doubt, I grabbed my drawing board and headed home. The moment I got out of the car, the maids rushed out to greet me, their faces filled with joy as if they had just survived a disaster. A few of them even burst into tears. "Sir, you're finally back. The days you weren't here, the whole house was in absolute chaos. Nothing we did could please CEO Su. She's been throwing tantrums for days." Hearing this, I finally understood. Turns out she just wasn't used to lacking my care. But she'd better start getting used to it. After all, it won't be long before I leave this place for good. For the rest of her life, she will have to get used to not having me around. I reassured the maids, then stepped into the villa. The house was pitch black. Not a single light was on. Surushu sat all by herself on the sofa, with the moonlight streaming through the window, casting fragmented shadows across her face. Hearing my footsteps, she finally raised her head and stared intently at me for a long time. Her voice carried a hint of annoyance. "Where have you been these past few days?" I casually replied while taking off my coat. "Up in the mountains, sketching landscapes." Surukshue frowned. "Why the sudden interest in drawing?" "It's not sudden. I was originally a top student in the fine arts department. If it weren't to repay a debt of gratitude, I would have gone abroad to study long ago and become an outstanding painter by now. But I didn't tell her any of this. I picked up a glass of water, took a sip, and said flatly, I just suddenly felt like drawing again. Seeing this, Surushue rubbed her temples and said slowly, "About what happened at the hot pot restaurant last time, I didn't mean to abandon you. It's just that Gyaru has been pampered since childhood and is terrified of pain. Even a tiny scratch can make him bleed all day. We grew up together, so I'm used to taking care of him, which is why I took him to the hospital first. Plus, you didn't object at the time, right? Why are you throwing a tantrum and running away from home again? Gyaru's house has been renovated, and he has already moved out of here. Don't make a scene over such trivial matters in the future." Her voice carried a trace of blame at the end. I couldn't tell if she was blaming me for leaving home or for being petty, which forced her beloved to leave this house earlier than planned. But I didn't care anymore. I gave a half-hearted response, set the water glass down, and turned to head upstairs. Jiangqi, I turned my head and saw the woman on the sofa had stood up. "I'm hungry. Cook me a bowl of noodles." I raised my bandaged left hand. "Did you forget that my hand is also injured?" Surukshu froze slightly, but I paid no attention to her reaction. I turned my back and walked upstairs. The next day, right as I walked out of my room, I saw a luxury jewelry box being pushed in front of my face. Looking up, I saw Surushue standing before me. She cleared her throat slightly. "About last time at the hot pot restaurant, I was busy taking care of Gyaru and didn't have time to mind you. This is to make it up to you." I looked at the sapphire ring inside the box, complex emotion flashing through my eyes. 5 years? For 5 whole years. This was the very first time she had ever given me a gift. But it was only as compensation, because she was too busy caring for her beloved that she forgot about me. I suddenly remembered the pile of gifts in her office, all meticulously prepared for Anjiaru. A wave of bitterness washed over me, but I quickly suppressed it. The gifts I never dared to hope for in the past, no longer needed now. Seeing that I wasn't taking it, she didn't think much of it, assuming I just didn't like it. I've been busy with Gyaru's stuff lately, so I just told my assistant to go to the auction and pick the most expensive one. If you don't like it, then... Before Surushue could finish her sentence, Su Yao's voice echoed from outside the door. "Gyaru, I told you my sister likes you so much. You shouldn't have moved out. Even if you did move out, you should at least come over to visit often." As she spoke, she dragged Anjiaru into the house. Noticing the ring in my hand, Su Yao instantly squealed in surprise. "Oh my God, sis, look, Gyaru just told me he really liked this ring. I didn't expect you to buy it right away." After saying that, she turned to look at Anjiaru with an admiring gaze. Hearing this, Anjiaru's face turned red instantly as he lowered his head bashfully. Seeing the hesitation in Surushue's eyes, I didn't think twice and handed the jewelry box straight to Anjiaru. "If it was bought for you, just take it." With just one sentence, I made the decision for Surushue, helping her resolve her dilemma. For the first time, Surushue's gaze didn't land on Anjiaru, but turned toward me instead. For some unknown reason, seeing how generous I was being, but instead looked toward me. Don't know why when seeing me being so generous like that. For the first time, she felt a bit unaccustomed. She felt I was different from before, but she couldn't exactly pinpoint how. A week later, the end of the divorce cooling-off period finally arrived. I could finally leave. I started packing my bags. Halfway through packing, Surukshu's mother suddenly sent over a custom-tailored high-end suit. She told me to come to the old mansion for a banquet. Looking at the suit in front of me, I suddenly found it funny. From a legal standpoint, the relationship between Surushue and me had officially ended, yet she was still completely oblivious and even wanted me to attend as her son-in-law. I intended to refuse, but thinking about the care her mother had shown me all these years, plus some immigration documents I needed to get from her, I still changed into the suit and went to the banquet. Inside the luxurious banquet hall, the lights were dazzling, and cheerful laughter echoed everywhere. The aroma of wine spread with the clinking of glasses, swirling around the lively chatter of the crowd. At the center of the crowd, Anjiaru was surrounded by a group of friends. "And Gyaru, CEO Su really loves you. Yeah, that ring on your hand and this necklace too." They were all auctioned at Sotheby's. Global limited editions. They symbolize the one and only love in the world. I heard a long time ago that a mysterious tycoon offered an astronomical price to buy them. Who would have thought it was CEO Su Anjiaru? There's probably no one in this world who loves you more than CEO Su. Knowing you were marrying someone else, Do you know how devastated she was, later hearing that you weren't doing well abroad? She flew over every week just to secretly look at you, and even bought gifts to coax you into being happy. Now that you're also divorced, just look at the way she treats you. She clearly doesn't care about that other guy anymore. Why don't you two just get together? Yeah, get together, get together. Amidst the lively cheering, I just stood silently in the corner, quietly observing everything, listening to everyone shouting, talking about how deeply my wife once loved someone else. Jang Triet! A voice suddenly rang out from behind, pulling me back to reality. I turned my head and saw the person who had just arrived. Out of habit, I intended to call her Mom, but suddenly thinking of something, I changed it to a respectful ma'am. Yes, hearing this address, Mother. To sighed slightly, but didn't say anything more. She only handed me all the necessary documents for going abroad. Jang Triet, everything you need to go abroad. I have finished preparing it all. Classes over there start early, so I've already booked your flight. It takes off in 3 hours. Is there anything else you need me to help with? No. Looking at the stack of documents in my hand, I suddenly felt relieved. Just thinking about being about to welcome freedom and a new life. My hand couldn't help but tremble with excitement. Took a deep breath, suppressing the emotions surging within, carefully tucking those documents into my bag, and shook my head. Thank you for helping me with these things, ma'am. I am truly very grateful. Pausing for a moment, I suddenly remembered something and spoke softly. I have just one small request. If later on, New Tweet finds out everything and asks about me, please say you don't know. It's best if she and I never meet again for the rest of our lives. Yes. Hearing this, Mother too looked at me in surprise. Haven't you told her that you're about to leave yet? Tell her what? Tell her that years ago when I approached her it was with a purpose, or tell her that for the past 5 years I was crazily good to her, not because of love, but just to repay a favor to follow your instructions, or tell her that I'm about to divorce, about to go abroad, and will never return. Yes. And then what? Her white moonlight has already returned. Even if I leave, she probably wouldn't care anyway. I chuckled coldly. No need anymore. I just want to leave as fast as I can, not wanting to argue about anything else. Leave. A clear voice suddenly rang out from behind. I turned my head, immediately meeting New Tweet's deep eyes. My heart trembled, my lips moving, intending to explain something, but I wasn't sure how much she had heard. Thankfully, Mother too quickly spoke up to reconcile. It's nothing. Why are you here? New Tweet didn't ask much, just glancing at the birthday cake on the table. Mom, it's your turn to cut the cake. Mother. To rubbed her forehead, refusing. Mom isn't feeling very well. You two go ahead and cut this cake. Saying that she didn't look at us anymore, signaling for the servant to help her upstairs, watching Mother Toe's back slowly fade away. New Tweet reached out toward me. Let's go cut the cake. I shook my head, raising my bandaged hand. I can't, the wound hasn't healed yet. You go find Anduat. In her eyes flashed a flicker of surprise, seemingly not understanding why I said that. She had the feeling that something was slipping out of her control. Why find him? This time the one feeling confused was me. Wasn't it that every time she would leave me to find Anduat? But for the past 5 years, because of Anduat, she had gone abroad I don't know how many times. Now that I was actively creating an opportunity, yet she acted so incredulous. What was this? I smiled. Because you two have such a good relationship, right? It's just cutting a cake. What's the big deal? Seeing me smile comfortably, not looking like I was angry, even though she still felt something uncomfortable inside. She didn't say anything more. New Tweet walked straight to Anduat's side, leaning close to his ear to whisper a few words. Anduat blushed but still nodded, offering his arm as she stepped onto the stage. The two of them held hands together to cut the cake, under the melodious sound of the piano. The image of the two being intimate together didn't look like they were cutting a birthday cake, but more like they were cutting a wedding cake. The party was more than halfway through. Some elderly guests, due to health, had left early. The remaining people were all us young folks. Since childhood, I had grown up with New Tweet, so everyone was clearly aware of the story between her and Anduat. Now, seeing this scene, everyone immediately applauded rhythmically, and even those who liked causing a stir clapped and cheered, kiss, kiss, making Anduat blush even more. Even New Tweet's earlobes were slightly flushed. She didn't kiss Anduat, but didn't stop that crowd from cheering either. I didn't care. I just quietly took out my phone, calculating the time to leave. If the flight departs in 3 hours, then I have to go now. But my quiet demeanor was misunderstood by everyone as heartbreak. Very quickly led by To Jiao, a group of prestigious heiresses and wealthy scions laughed mockingly, walking toward me. When I lifted my head, my vision was completely surrounded by a crowd. To Jiao smiled brightly at me, taunting. Jang Treat, you and my sister have been married for many years, so what? In the end, you can still only stand here alone, watching her and Anduat be intimate together. Right, I said it long ago, my sister loves Anduat. Being with you is just to heal a broken heart. If you had any sense, you would have left a long time ago. Why are you still thick-skinned and clinging to my sister? I didn't want to bicker with them, only wanting to quickly go pack my luggage. I turned to leave. Unexpectedly, the crowd became even more relentless. An ugly duckling wanting to transform into a white swan. Are you dreaming? If it wasn't because Nduat went abroad, do you think? People of your class could sit in the position of the two families' son-in-law. Don't you even know what kind of thing you are yourself? If you were smart, you should have actively made way. Get out of the two family. While speaking, they pushed me. Mute, we're talking to you. Did you hear us? Seeing I still remained silent, one hot-tempered person couldn't take it anymore, shoving me hard from behind. A loud thud rang out. My entire body slammed into the tower of champagne glasses behind me. The glasses fell and shattered into pieces, white wine mixed with red blood, creating a shocking scene. Instantly, every eye in the banquet hall was drawn to me. On the stage, Tanu Tweet saw this scene, her pupils contracted. She immediately let go of Onduat's hand, rushing over to see me lying on the ground covered in blood. Her eyes were filled with flames of anger, hurriedly stooping down to help me up, while ordering her private doctor to be called. She coldly swept her gaze over the crowd around us, whoever did this causing everyone to be so terrified that no one dared to speak. Her face was dark, to the extreme. Just as she was about to continue, a bodyguard rushed over. CEO Tuan is suddenly complaining of severe stomach pain. Hurry and go take a look. Tanu Tweet didn't let go of me, just slightly frowning. Is it serious? The bodyguard anxiously replied, he's in such pain he's rolling on the floor. But this time the one hesitating was Tanu Tweet. She looked at me, her eyes flashing with a bit of hesitation. Jang Treat the first? Yes. I understood what she was about to say, struggling to sit up from her arms, my expression calm. Yes, I know he has been pampered since small. Even a little pain makes him unable to bear it all day. And you're used to caring for him anyway. Yes. Unexpectedly, I said what she intended to say first, helping her resolve her hesitation. This was the first time Sutu's eyes hadn't fallen on Onduat, but instead looked toward me. Don't know why when seeing me so generous like this. For the first time, she felt a bit unaccustomed. She felt I was different from before, but she wasn't sure how. Tanu Tweet still wanted to say something, but from afar suddenly Onduat's piteous moaning rang out. In the end, she didn't hesitate anymore, just looked at me full of guilt. Jang Treat, I will visit you later. I will make it up to you later. Saying that, without further hesitation, she immediately abandoned me and rushed away, watching her decisively support Onduat, both gently coaxing and hurriedly rushing outside. I lightly curled my lips in a mocking smile. But in the eyes of Tajao and that crowd, this appearance of mine turned into heartbreak from being abandoned. After speaking, she didn't hesitate a second, abandoning me immediately to rush away, watching her desperately try to help Onduat, while gently comforting him, and rushing outside. I curled my lips in a mocking smirk. But in the eyes of those people, this look of mine turned into heartbreak from being left behind. I actually thought doing that would make my sister pity you a little. In the end, didn't she still dump you? Jang Triet, if you have any self-respect, get out of the family home. But I didn't bother paying attention to them, just borrowed an empty room from the servant, applied medicine myself, changed into clean clothes, and limped out of the party. Back at the villa, I went straight upstairs to pack my luggage. After dragging my suitcase downstairs, I conveniently placed the divorce agreement, signed by both, on the table just as I opened the door. Preparing to leave, I ran into someone about to enter. Seeing me too, Zhao immediately frowned, reproaching. Why are you running around again? My sister told me to bring you medicine. I really don't know what she's thinking anymore. Not busy being with Nduat, yet she keeps worrying about you. Insisting I go find you, making me run all over the place just now. I calmly responded. No need, just keep it for Nduat. Saying that, I pushed Tajao's hand away, intending to leave. It was at this moment that Tajao noticed the suitcase in my hand. Her expression changed instantly. She hurriedly grabbed my arm. What are you doing? I looked at her, my gaze completely calm as I pulled my luggage. You tell me what I'm doing. Obviously, I'm leaving. You like Onduat, and you always wanted him as your brother-in-law. Now I'm initiating the divorce, giving my spot to him. Hearing this, Tajao's eyes widened, her whole body seemingly frozen, as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. After all the deep affection I had for Tonu Tweet before everyone knew, now how could I just walk away like that? Seemingly remembering something, her voice suddenly trembled. Jang Triet, don't pretend anymore. You loved my sister so much before, so thick-skinned that you had to marry her at any cost. Why are you now actively demanding a divorce? I get it, you're playing hard to get right. Let me tell you, this trick won't work on my sister. But I kept a calm expression. Whether it's a real divorce or not, check it yourself. The divorce papers are right there on the table. You can go check if it's real or fake. Tajao, you're holding my hand so tightly. Don't tell me you can't bear to see me go. Hearing that? To Zhao immediately flared up, hurriedly letting go of my hand, as if I wish you'd leave right now. Once you leave, I'll immediately set off fireworks to celebrate. If my sister knew you were actively leaving, she'd probably be so happy. I don't know why, but when she said that last sentence, her voice lacked certainty. No, I didn't pay attention, just replied faintly, then congratulations to you all. Everything is as you wished. Saying that I stepped through the door, looking at my back with zero attachment. For the first time, to Zhao felt something completely out of her control. Inside, she felt a sudden panic, hurriedly calling out to stop me, Zhang Triet. Where are you going? Don't you intend to tell my sister a word? My hand tightened slightly on the suitcase handle, my footsteps hesitating. I turned my head to look at her, then looked back at the villa behind me. To repay a favor I pretended to love. To new tweet for 5 years, turning into someone people called a thick-skinned parasite. To repay a favor I gave up my dreams, buried my career and lost myself. For 5 years I tried to be a model husband, dutifully managing the household, but in return I only received contempt stripped of all self-respect. 5 years of living in constraint have finally come to an end. Yes, finally I have paid off this debt. Finally I have regained my freedom. For the first time I flashed a smile, a genuine smile, a smile full of relief. I'm about to start a life that belongs only to myself. From now on, everything here has nothing to do with me anymore. Farewell to family. Farewell to new tweet. I waved my hand as if shedding a burden, pulled my suitcase and walked away under the moonlight, gradually disappearing into the endless night. 3 days later, to new tweet finally had time to return home to pick up some clothes. As soon as she entered the door out of habit, she called my name. But she called several times and only a few servants appeared. Where is he? Where is he? Watching the unfamiliar servants helping her change shoes and take her coat, the new tweet frowned. The servants stammered for a long while before responding timidly. Ma'am, he is no longer here. She went into the house in slippers, her heart empty. He wasn't at home. But last time I took Nduat to the hospital for hot pot burns. When she got back, he was the same, not saying a word, silently going away for a few days. This time it's the same. Before leaving, she had been generous, telling him he could go to the hospital himself. Now he's pouting and running away from home again. The irritation in her heart gradually turned into a flame, an inexplicable anger. To new tweet walked to the sofa and saw a file folder placed on the table. But if it were any other day, she definitely wouldn't have bothered looking. But today, as if an invisible force was controlling her, she picked it up to look. 3 large characters hit her eyes immediately: divorce agreement. In the signature section below her name appeared neatly. In that moment, her face darkened. Her eyes lost their light. Only chilling coldness remained. Her finger traced her own signature. It wasn't printed, nor was it forged, but her actual handwriting. But in her memories, she had never signed any divorce papers. Suddenly her eyes narrowed. To new tweet suddenly remembered that morning, before going to eat Western food. Zhang Treat had brought her something to sign, but at that time she was busy chatting with Nduat, so she didn't pay attention. Thinking back now, that was the divorce agreement. Her hand tightened around the folder. The papers crumpled, then immediately shredded into scraps falling onto the floor. Divorcing me. This is truly the most ridiculous thing in the world. Zhang Treat loves me so much, loves me to the point he could jump into the sea for me. I've abandoned Zhang Treat so many times, but never saw him get angry and leave. It must be because I've been busy taking care of Nduat lately, making him a bit jealous. It's been 5 years. Can't I let him be jealous for a bit? Anyway, he'll come back on his own. If he hasn't returned yet, no, he will definitely return. To new tweet believed it firmly after all. In this world, besides Zhang Triet, no one else loves her to that extent. But in the days that followed, everyone in the villa tacitly understood and no one mentioned Zhang Triet again. Until that day, the new tweet brought Nduat home from the hospital. Looking at the bland bowl of porridge in front of her, Zhao irritably threw the spoon onto the table. Who cooked this porridge? It's really hard to eat. Let me make another bowl for him. The servant nearby hesitated and spoke up. Miss to the master hasn't returned home for a few days. Zhao immediately widened her eyes. Zhang Treat still hasn't returned. She still thought that the divorce matter that I mentioned that day was just a joke. After all, their family was the only wealthy family she could rely on. Who wouldn't try to cling tightly to this opportunity? Remembering the divorce agreement she saw on the table that day, she hadn't paid attention, just casually shredded it and threw it in the trash. But now, when thinking back, she pursed her lips and looked at Nduat. The other person was still silently eating porridge, seemingly hearing nothing. She had been waiting for Nduat for so many years. Now he also seemed to want to return. Zhang Treat had also divorced and left. Theoretically, she should be happy. Zhao looked toward Tonyu Tweet, seeing her sister slightly frowning, seemingly dissatisfied that I still hadn't returned. Mentioning me, the irritation in her heart increased. If you're going, go, why bother my sister? After the meal, Nduat was helped upstairs by the servant to rest. To Zhao watched To New tweet still sitting in place, thought for a while, then opened her mouth to ask, "Sister, when will you give Anduat a formal status? I've wanted him as a brother-in-law for a long time." To New tweet suddenly stopped looking at To Zhao. "What did you say?" Since childhood, To Zhao had been a bit afraid of this sister. Instinctively, she stepped back a bit, but still stubbornly said, "Zhang Triet has already divorced you. You don't even like him anyway. Then why haven't you been with Anduat? When did you find out he was divorced from my sister?" To New tweet continued to press. To Zhao swallowed hard. "Didn't you tell me to bring medicine to him last time? I just happened to see the divorce agreement, but back then I thought he was just joking." Seeing I hadn't been home for so long, she also had to believe that I truly wanted to divorce. Hearing To Zhao's words, To New tweet's expression grew even gloomier. It didn't take a genius to realize the divorce papers left behind then weren't out of anger, but a genuine desire to divorce her. But the coffee cup in her hand was slammed hard onto the table. "He loved me so much, how dare he divorce me? Over the past few years, maybe I've pampered him too much. Besides, after divorcing me, where could he possibly go? I will call him, tell him not to be angry anymore and to come back immediately." The servant opened their mouth slightly, looking troubled. "We have already called the gentle man, but we couldn't get in touch." To New tweet took out her phone, opened her contacts, and scrolled up and down for a while, only then realizing she had never saved my number. Last time it was also the assistant who helped her call. Receiving the phone number from the servant, she immediately dialed. But at the other end, only a mechanical voice rang out. "The phone number you have dialed does not exist. Does he dare to cancel his number?" Staring fixedly at the pitch-black screen, her gaze grew increasingly cold. New tweet suddenly stood up and left, causing Zhao frantically call after her, unable to stop her. Only when she stopped at a red light on the road did she calm down. "Where should I go to find him?" "He's been an orphan since he was small. Before being helped by the To family, he always lived in an orphanage." Amidst the blaring car horns behind her, she immediately turned the car toward the orphanage, looking at the beautiful woman in front of her. For the first time, the director's face darkened. "Ms. to please sit. Why have you come to see me?" To New tweet didn't mind the cold attitude of the other person, just staring fixedly at her. "I want to ask if the director knows where Zhang Triet has gone." She originally intended to say how after I left, the house had become chaotic. But thinking of the status of the person in front of her, she finally swallowed the words she hadn't managed to speak. In the director's eyes flashed a hint of mockery. "Married for 5 years. Yet To New tweet uses this way of addressing, to call Zhang Triet." She felt both pity and luck for him. Lucky that I already finished repaying the favor, and divorced this woman. Otherwise, with someone like her, it's truly not worth spending a lifetime together. The director didn't even bother looking at To New tweet, just continuing to process her work. "You and Zhang Triet were married for 5 years, yet you don't even know where he went. So how could I possibly know? Mr. You may leave." Returning empty-handed, To New tweet angrily pounded on the steering wheel. "Zhang Triet!" She always thought the divorce agreement I left behind was just a tantrum. But now, with me canceling my phone number and no one knowing where I went, she couldn't help but admit that I truly wanted to divorce her. Yet inside she was filled with unwillingness. Clearly before I loved him so much. Why did he decisively leave? Right then the phone beside her rang. After answering, my mother's weak voice came through. "New tweet? Come home for a visit. Mom has something to tell you." "Mother." To looked at the person in front of her, sighing deeply. "Now that you and Zhang Triet have divorced, and Duat has also divorced and returned to the country, you and Anduat." To New tweet immediately interrupted her mother. "I haven't agreed to divorce Zhang Triet yet, mother." Tu widened her eyes in shock, taking a divorce document out of the drawer. "But the divorce certificate for you two already exists. Didn't Zhang Triet tell you?" Seeing the fleeting, hazy look in her daughter's eyes, Mother To was even more surprised. She thought her son-in-law only hid going abroad, never expecting he wouldn't even mention the divorce. Then how exactly did they two sign the divorce papers? Looking at the divorce document in front of her, To New tweet's gaze darkened. The fire in her chest burned fiercely, spreading even to her gaze. She thought I had simply signed the divorce papers, never expecting I had held the divorce certificate in my hand. If To New tweet remembered correctly, after submitting the divorce, there still had to be a 1-month reflection period. That means for over a month now, I had planned to divorce her. Looking at the doubtful gaze of her mother, To New tweet only replied casually a few times and changed the subject. Afterward, she asked her mother why she wanted to set her up with Anduat. Mother To smiled. "Before you were ready to die to marry him because of Anduat. Now Anduat has returned, and Zhang Triet has divorced you. Mom thought that, before everyone said you and Anduat didn't suit each other. Now that both have divorced, everyone started saying they are a perfect match." An uncomfortable feeling spread in her heart. But I never agreed to divorce Jang Triet. I don't know why. When hearing those words about the divorce, New Tweet suddenly panicked. But these 5 years of marriage, she had long grown accustomed to my care and concern. If they truly divorced, she couldn't imagine how terrible her life would become. Moreover, I loved her like my own life. This divorce must just be me throwing a tantrum. This is regarding Nduat. She did have some feelings, but to abandon me she seemingly couldn't do it. Seeing the hesitation in her daughter's eyes, Mother. Tu took another folder out of the drawer. Mom. When New Tweet saw the 4 characters gratitude agreement and the signature at the bottom of the page, she immediately widened her eyes. Mom, what is the meaning of this? Since she was her daughter, Mother. To didn't want to hide it anymore. That year when Nduat married and went abroad, an heiress like you became so devastated. Mom thought I had to find someone to help you get through this. Right at the moment, Jang Triet wanted to repay the favor, so the 2 sides discussed it together. As long as he stays by your side for 5 years and helps you forget the past, then it's considered he has repaid this debt of gratitude. In truth, over the past 5 years, he has done very well. Mother To's words came out, but New Tweet couldn't hear anything anymore. She gripped the gratitude agreement tightly, her whole body trembling, her mind blank. What did you just hear? Turns out all these past 5 years, the gentleness and care Jang Triet gave her were only to repay a favor. Turns out Jang Triet never loved her. Turns out when Nduat returned to the country, Jang Triet immediately wanted to divorce her. But the gaze he once had for her, that affection couldn't possibly be fake. If he truly didn't love her, how could he jump into the sea for her? How could he have been good to her for the past 5 years? New Tweet stared at the agreement in front of her with a complex gaze. Each clause was listed clearly, what I had to do for her over the past 5 years. The further down she read, the gloomier her face became. From big things like protecting her life, to the smallest household chores. I had to handle everything by hand. Everything I had done for her was all because of this agreement, with not a shred of private sentiment. Next, the last ray of hope into New Tweet's heart was crushed completely by the dense lines of text on the agreement. The emotions surged like a broken dam, swirling in the depths of her eyes, nearly drowning everything. Rip up the agreement in New Tweet's hand was torn into scraps. In Mother To's eyes, her daughter was always cold and controlled. The only time she lost control was when Nduat got married and went abroad. This was the second time she was angry, like this because of another person. The words Mother To intended to say were swallowed back in the end. Mother. New Tweet took a few deep breaths, trying to force herself to calm down. If Jang Triet had signed the agreement with her mother, then the matter of him leaving, Mom definitely knew clearly. She looked up at her mother, eyes cold. Mom, you know where Jang Triet is, right? Yes. Mother. To looked at her daughter for a long time. She admitted that she knew, after all. My flight ticket abroad was arranged by her. But when I left, I specifically asked Mother to not to reveal my destination. So she looked at her daughter awkwardly. I'm sorry I can't tell you. She gave a bitter smile. Even if I did tell you, it wouldn't be of any use. Jang Triet likely anticipated that this day would come, and knew that since I am your mother, sooner or later I would tell you, so he didn't go to the country I had arranged for his studies at all. New Tweet's gaze immediately betrayed her sense of loss. She had never thought that I would leave so decisively. It was just like the way I unexpectedly stepped into her life all those years ago. But apart from a little regret, Mother To felt no other emotions. She just probed, asking, so about you and Nduat? A piercing phone ringtone suddenly rang out. As soon as she connected to Zhao's anxious voice, came through from the other end. Sister, hurry back. Nduat is in trouble. When New Tweet returned home, she saw a group of foreigners standing in front of the villa. The woman leading them had sharp, cold eyes staring at Nduat, who was hanging his head, without saying a word. With just one look, New Tweet immediately recognized her. She was Nduat's ex-wife. She immediately stepped forward. Zhao eagle-eyed saw her sister and hurriedly waved, Sister. Pleading alongside the others, they immediately turned to look at her, especially Nduat's ex-wife. She observed New Tweet from top to bottom, her gaze carrying a pressure that made her suddenly feel a chill down her spine. New Tweet stepped in front of Nduat, facing the woman in front of her. Ms. Ha, why have you come to the To family? Ah Huangok laughed coldly. Why did I come? Doesn't Miss To know best? But Nduat and I were married for 5 years. During that time you constantly harassed me. Honestly, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have divorced so quickly. New Tweet froze. So for the past 5 years, every week when Nduat went abroad, it was to sneakily meet Ha Huangok. He had always hidden it very well. The gifts brought back were also just common ones. Ha Huangok looked at her mockingly. Although Nduat and I had a whirlwind marriage, at first I sincerely treated him well. Until he gained full control of the family business. began to be busy with work and gradually neglected me. Looking at his social media posts, I also wanted to find a chance to clarify things clearly, but every time I tried, the phone would be constantly interrupted by other calls. And precisely during that time beside Anduat, many small gifts appeared that couldn't be found in the US. But when checking the cameras, I realized that it was you who secretly placed them in front of my house. An inexplicable rage flared in her heart. She threw all those gifts in front of Anduat. The two argued countless times. Finally, Anduat secretly divorced and returned to the country. Ha Huai-nguk stared at her, her tone full of sarcasm. Miss To is truly well-bred, already having a husband yet still pining for someone else's. One sentence made to New Tweet's face turn pale instantly. I'm already divorced. Behind her, Anduat also suddenly raised his head to look at her. Anduat's eyes flashed with surprise. Since they were little, he always knew. To New Tweet liked him, but in his eyes she was only like a younger sister. Later, he heard from friends that the evening she intended to confess to him, he was preparing to bring his girlfriend home to meet his family. To avoid awkwardness, he hurriedly married Ha Huai-nguk and went abroad. Perhaps because they married too hastily. At first, Ha Huai-nguk truly loved him, but later, work became busy. The provocative, ambiguous words from women on the outside, coupled with his belated explanations, caused their marriage to gradually show cracks. His social media posts were also seen by New Tweet, and so in front of his house appeared those gifts. But he knew full well New Tweet was married, and understood that her actions could cause so much trouble for both families. So he quietly handled all those gifts. But unexpectedly, the very day he threw them away, Ha Huai-nguk caught him. Countless conflicts accumulated for so long exploded in that moment. Later, he secretly divorced and returned to the country. His parents were far away and couldn't look after him. When he was planning to go to his family's hotel to stay temporarily, somehow, New Tweet heard the news of his divorce and sought him out. Being timid by nature, the most reckless thing he had ever done was secretly divorcing Ha Huai-nguk. Now facing New Tweet, who had always liked him and was enthusiastically welcoming him, he immediately refused point blank, saying he had a place to stay. But New Tweet acted as if she didn't hear, firmly bringing him to the two-family home. He thought I would disagree with him staying, but unexpectedly I agreed. Later, when his apartment renovations were finished, he took advantage of when New Tweet wasn't home to sneakily move out. But as they had been friends for many years, he didn't want to sever this friendship. But every time he refused, to New Tweet's eyes it held another meaning. This made him extremely distressed. After hearing the news that I and New Tweet had divorced and left, his heart was filled with even more regret. He shouldn't have returned to the country. Ha Huai-nguk didn't bother looking at New Tweet, directly pulling Anduat away from her. New Tweet reflexively wanted to win him back, but was stopped by Ha Huai-nguk's bodyguards. No, Anduat, it was my fault before I apologize. I promise from now on I won't let that happen again. Now do you want to go home with me? As for the divorce, I've already submitted the application to withdraw it. Anduat hesitated endlessly. Anduat don't agree with her. New Tweet's gaze revealed clear panic. She knew full well the emotional wounds that Anduat had suffered over the past few years because of Ha Huai-nguk. If he went back, wouldn't he be stepping into the same trap again? Beside her, Zhao also kept nodding. Right, Anduat, my sister is the best one for you. Anduat looked at the hand being tightly gripped by Ha Huai-nguk, took a deep breath, then raised his head to look at New Tweet. New Tweet, thank you for caring for me over this past time. One sentence made New Tweet completely collapse. Anduat, she bit her lip. Since he was a child, his personality was always weak and easily bullied. He didn't know how to refuse. It was always New Tweet who stood up to help him. He was truly grateful to her. But now, when he had enough courage to refuse on his own, it was because of fear that he always cried every time he said a refusal. Only in her eyes that carried another meaning, he sincerely said, sorry for causing a misunderstanding. Jang Treat is a good man. I also want to say a word of apology to him. New Tweet, from now on, let's not meet again. Don't know how this play ended. The crowd gradually dispersed. The villa was left with only New Tweet. Seeing her daughter once again fall into a state of collapse, mother too was both angry and pained. Angry because she fell time after time into a state of mental decay because of romance. Pained because her health was about to be damaged again. But this time, there was no one like me to pull her out again. Shock after shock caused New Tweet To seem like she had turned into a different person. These rumors also spread to the other side of the ocean. In Italy, as I stepped out of the studio, my companion was holding a phone, showing me the rumors about New Tweet. Jang Treat, hurry and look at this. While holding the script, I glanced over the screen, finally only letting out a sound. That's your only reaction? My friend looked at me confused. I helplessly shrugged. What other reaction do you want me to have? In this circle, there are only so many stories. Everyone knows them all. After all, back then, the story of Tonyu Tweet having a car accident because of love, then marrying someone else had already stirred up public opinion. And the things I had done they also knew a part of. But their reaction, compared to the crowd around, Tonyu Tweet was truly as different as heaven and earth. Such a good person, yet Tonyu Tweet doesn't know how to cherish him. And even tangling with someone else's husband, truly shameless. My friend gestured dramatically with both hands, looking furious. If I were you, I would have slapped her twice already. I chuckled lightly. Since the moment I went abroad, I haven't cared about what's happening back home anymore. In the middle of the night, as I finished my final painting, an ear-piercing ringtone suddenly shattered the silence. It was another school friend calling from back home. As soon as I picked up, the excited voice on the other end came through. Jang Triet, let me tell you. Tonyu Tweet. She's gone mad, truly gone mad. I knit my brows. Only then did I learn that ever since Tonyu Tweet and I divorced and I went abroad, plus the fact that her white moonlight also followed his ex-wife back to the U.S., Tonyu Tweet had fallen into a slump. She spent all day locking herself at home getting drunk. If it were in the past, I would have already prepared hangover soup for her. But now, with me no longer there to take such careful care, she suddenly remembered me. Added to the appreciation for those who treated her well, her desire to find me grew even more intense. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the country that Mother Toe had arranged. She didn't even know where I was. But to find me, she even neglected the entire company. Furthermore, she even dealt with everyone who had hurt me that year. Even to Zhao, who was always difficult with me, was forced by her to be sent to Australia. But with a series of such crazy actions, if she hasn't gone mad, then what is she? I toyed with a rose by the windowsill, lowering my eyes. From the day I started repaying the favor, I had only viewed Tonyu Tweet as a task. I only hoped to finish repaying the debt soon and leave. The day I went abroad, I initially intended to go to the country my mother arranged, but after thinking it over, the moment I stepped off the plane, I bought a ticket to Italy. Since then, I focused my heart and soul on my career, completely uninterested in Tonyu Tweet's affairs anymore. Now hearing news about her, only one sentence flashed through my mind. Affection that comes late isn't worth a dime. Besides, since I don't love her, how could I possibly care about her regret? I walked to the studio as usual, carrying my drawing board. Exiting the door, I saw my best friend waiting for me, taking the warm bread from Nones, and I also gave her the birthday gift I had prepared. The two of us laughed and chatted on the way to the studio, but when we arrived, we were told today's class was canceled. The reason was because a master painter, incredibly famous, was coming to the school to give a lecture. We had to pack up our drawing boards and head toward the auditorium. Inside the auditorium was packed, no one, and I squeezed until we finally grabbed 2 seats in the back row. A knock on the door sounded. The whole auditorium quickly sank into silence. When they saw who entered, the bustling auditorium suddenly went dead silent. There was no reason other than a simple one. Today's speaker was way too handsome. But in the art world, we had already encountered countless people with outstanding looks, yet there had never been anyone more beautiful than the man standing in front of us. Only I, after seeing him clearly, suddenly held my breath. Simply because I knew him, it had been a long time since we last met. Jang Treat. The person in front smiled, looking at me, making my eyes involuntarily turn red. Fo Trong Sing. He was my childhood sweetheart, growing up with me in the orphanage. He and Than Nguyen were both a few years older than me, so when we were little, the two of them always protected me. It's just that fate pushed him and Than Nguyen to be adopted by loving families, leaving only me behind in the orphanage. Finally, I received help from the two family. Looking at the lanky young man before me, Fo Trong Sin's eyes were full of heartache. In the past, under the protection of him and Than Nguyen, I was once a happy child. But then fate teased us. We lost contact after he and Than Nguyen were adopted. Back then we were all small. How could we have any way to contact each other? But throughout the years, he had always been searching for the two of us. Finally, he only found Than Nguyen. It wasn't until later from the two family's official website that he saw the news of Tonyu Tweet getting married. Only then did he know I had married Tonyu Tweet. But the things that Tonyu Tweet had done, he knew all of them. And the more he knew, the more his heart ached. Someone who was once active, happy like me, had been tormented by this marriage until full of injuries. Knowing I had gone to Italy for advanced studies, he and Than Nguyen discussed it, and moved to Rome together. We talked for a long time. Only then did I learn he and Than Nguyen were married. The two moved to Rome this time just to see me sooner. I couldn't hold it back anymore, wanting to pour out all the grievances of all these years. In the evening meeting, Than Nguyen again at the party, burst into tears once more. The three of us talked for a very long time. Than Nguyen placed the food I liked in front of me, then concernedly asked, "Jang Treat, do you have any plans for the future?" I ate the last piece of steak on my plate and shook my head. None for the moment. For now, I just want to graduate. After that, organize my own art exhibition, or find a job I love. Mentioning the matter of returning to the country, a flicker of haze appeared in my eyes. Return to the country. I definitely had to go back to visit the director. After all the day I left, I had secretly slipped a sum of money into her pocket. But returning to the country meant having to meet New Tweet again. Thinking of the crazy things she had done, my brows furrowed tightly again. The couple looked at each other and hurriedly changed the topic. Eat first, think about the future later. We will always support you. In the blink of an eye, it was late autumn. I successfully celebrated my own graduation. Looking at the scene before me, my heart was filled with emotions. A graduation ceremony 5 years late. I had finally waited for this day. Jang Treat, congratulations on your graduation. Friends one by one gave me bouquets and congratulatory wishes. The corners of my eyes turned red again. During the final meal with friends, I let myself go and drank a few glasses of wine. The bitter taste of the wine slid down my throat. A sour feeling surged up, thinking about how hard it would be to meet again later. The whole group cried and laughed, making a racket until late at night. A week later, I packed my luggage, said goodbye to my friends in Italy, and returned to the country with Pho Trong Sin and Thanh Nguyệt. Not for permanent settlement, just a temporary return. First, I wanted to visit the director. Second, I accepted the favor of his friend to organize an art exhibition. Seeing the director after 2 years of separation, my eyes turned red once again. The director held my hand. Hearing that I had completed my studies and realized my dreams, her eyes were filled with joy and pride. We talked for a long time. Then the director suddenly spoke. Right not long after you went abroad, New Tweet came to the orphanage to ask about you. It had been a long time since I heard that name. I was slightly stunned. The director continued, looking at her appearance. I knew immediately she had treated you poorly, so I didn't say anything. After dinner with the director, I returned to the Pho family villa. Because I was staying for a short time, Pho Trong Sin and Thanh Nguyệt had brought me to their home. Seeing me return, Thanh Nguyệt immediately ran out to welcome me, concernedly asking questions, while pulling me to the dining table to drink soup. Afterward, we talked about the art exhibition next week. When it was late, I went back to my room to rest. At the building 2, New Tweet sat quietly, staring at the photo on the table for a long time. 2 years, exactly 2 years. She had mobilized all the influence of the To family, but still couldn't find a trace of me. Looking at the person in the photo, she flashed a bitter smile. This was her and my wedding photo, and also the only photo throughout 5 years of marriage. People always have to lose something to know how to cherish it. Now she understood that sentence, but when I first left, she thought it was just because she was used to my care that she felt unadjusted. It wasn't until she saw the gratitude agreement that I and her mother had signed, and later when things happened one after another, that she realized that familiarity with me had long since become love. It's just that previously, due to the overly peaceful existence, she had overlooked this feeling. By the time she was willing to admit it, I had long since left her world. The office door was knocked on from the outside. Immediately after my assistant walked in, CEO To. Tomorrow there's an art exhibition for young artists held at the city center. They've sent an invitation for you to attend. After the divorce, too, New Tweet realized that she didn't understand anything about me at all. Back then, when she saw me painting landscapes, she thought it was just a fleeting hobby of mine. Only later did she realize I'd studied fine arts since childhood. If it weren't for wanting to repay a favor, I would have given up my chance to study abroad. Perhaps I would have already become a new star in the art world. Perhaps because she wanted to understand me better, or perhaps because she wanted to get a little closer to me. Any exhibition organized by the Jang family, she would always attend. In another turn of events, a classmate had sent me the list of media outlets and entrepreneurs participating in this exhibition so I could prepare, but when I saw the name New Tweet on the list, I paused for a moment. My friend saw this and hurriedly said, "If you don't want to see her, you don't need to go out and face the media then." Here I smiled and shook my head. It's all right. From the very first day I returned to the country, I had known in advance that sooner or later we would cross paths. You can dodge the first day, but you can't dodge the 15th. Besides, what do I have to be afraid of? The debt to the To family was repaid a long time ago. Now between us, we are just strangers. The day the exhibition took place, a steady stream of people flowed into the gallery following the signs. New Tweet also quietly blended into the crowd. Over the past few years, she had visited quite a few art exhibitions, so she had some understanding of art. Every painting hanging on the wall was beautiful, until that painting appeared. There were no superfluous lines, only a mountain covered in natural scenery. The nameplate next to the painting had only one word: freedom. For some reason, she suddenly thought of me, but during the 5 years of marriage, I had always revolved around her, 24 hours a day just confined to the house, waiting for her to return. I had lost myself, completely lacking freedom. Something that was naturally normal had become a luxury for me. Lost in thought, a familiar male voice suddenly rang out behind her. She followed the sound and looked over. With just one glance, she saw the person she had missed day and night. In that moment, her world suddenly became quiet. In her eyes, in her heart, now only remained the man in front of her. He stood straight, elegantly and radiantly smiling while introducing his work. Jang Treat. I frowned slightly. Before I could even turn my head, I was gripped by an arm. The scent of sweet perfume rushed straight to my nose. New Tweet was hugging me tightly, her body trembling incessantly. Jang Treat, you're finally back. Just as I was about to push her away, the figure was one step faster, forcefully pulling her away from me. Jang Treat, are you okay? I shook my head. Pho Trong Sing glared coldly at New Tweet, his voice icy. New Tweet, do you still have the nerve to see Jang Treat? Every time he saw her, he remembered the injustices that I had endured for the past 5 years. The more he thought, the more his inner anger flared. New Tweet opened her mouth to explain something, but I spoke first. Go somewhere else. I didn't want the exhibition that I and my friends had prepared hard for to be ruined by New Tweet. At the coffee shop on the second floor, Pho Trong Sin blocked me and Thang Nguyet, coldly questioning New Tweet. Jang Treat and you have already divorced. Why are you still bothering him? New Tweet looked at me. My expression was still as indifferent as if nothing had ever happened. But precisely this indifference made her heart feel as if it were being squeezed by someone, hurting so much she couldn't breathe. However, up until now, I had never used this attitude to face her. The moment she saw me, she had thousands of questions. But in the end, she only blurted out one sentence. Jang Treat, why did you want to divorce me? Thang Nguyet rolled her eyes in annoyance. What kind of stupid question is this? I calmly looked at her, my voice terrifyingly calm. Once the debt of gratitude is repaid, of course I have to leave. From the moment she signed the divorce papers, I knew that all grudges between us had ended. New Tweet clenched her fists, her voice trembling slightly. So for the past 5 years, everything you did for me, all your tenderness was just to repay a favor. I remained as calm as ever. As if remembering something, I spoke softly. From the moment your mother gave me the debt, repayment agreement and forced me to sign, the relationship between us was only for repayment. I also always reminded myself of that. So immediately after signing the agreement, I had already prepared a divorce paper. Speaking of which, New Tweet was the first person I ever had a romantic relationship with. Before even stepping into society, I had to get married. My mind was simple. I was afraid I would be bewitched by these fake years. So I had prepared a divorce paper early on. Every time I felt my heart flutter, I would take out the divorce paper and look at it. Reminded myself of the relationship and the distance between us. I once tried to love New Tweet. Perhaps I did. But just as feelings began to sprout, she, because of her comfort, abandoned me time and time again. Even a normal person would feel tired, let alone me who was just someone repaying a favor. Not despising her was already lucky enough. 5 years, they say it's long, and it is long. Long enough that I once thought this whole life would be like that. But it was also short. So short that in the blink of an eye I had completely escaped her, leaving this country. Cruel but factual words continued to pour out. New Tweet's face grew paler and paler. New Tweet, from past until now, whether in the past, present or future, I have never and will never love you. Between us, there is only repayment. Whatever her reaction was, I didn't care. I only wanted to quickly resolve this matter, then go back to handling the exhibition. New Tweet still intended to move forward to keep me, but Pho Trong Sin still stood in the way, making her only able to watch me leave my back, gradually disappearing behind the door. The exhibition was not affected by this minor interruption and was finally held smoothly. To congratulate me, Pho Trong Sing and Thang Nguyet specially booked a table at my favorite restaurant. But before we could even eat, a vibrant bouquet of roses was brought before me. May I ask who is Mr. Jiang? This bouquet was sent by Ms. To. Congratulations to Mr. Jiang on a successful exhibition. But I didn't accept that bouquet at all, only coldly telling the staff to return it. Please tell Ms. To that. I don't like red roses. Red roses are the type and Duke loves, while I only like thorny wild roses. The atmosphere, which had been warm, suddenly became awkward. The delivery person held the bouquet, stuck in a dilemma. Seeing I wouldn't speak, he finally left quietly. But this didn't affect me New Tweet. She persisted in sending a bouquet of wild roses to my gallery every day. But those bouquets never even reached the door, before being thrown straight into the trash. Another exhibition. New Tweet blocked me once more, wanting to ask why I wouldn't accept her flowers. I looked at her for a long time, then suddenly broke into a mocking laugh. We were married for 5 years, yet you still understand nothing about me. Because I don't like you. So everything you give me I don't like either. New Tweet. Why can't we end this gracefully? We are already divorced. The person who should be happiest is you. She took a deep breath, her eyes looking like they contained a shattered universe, her voice trembling, subconsciously reaching out to hold me. No, it's not that Jang Treat divorcing you. I am not happy at all. I've grown used to having you in my life. Only when you left did I realize the person I truly like is you. And do it was just a youthful obsession. Now that he's gone too, why can't we go back to how it was? A hint of bewilderment had flashed in my eyes. The days back then, every single day felt like torture to me. I have absolutely no desire to revisit the past. I leaned to the side, dodging her hand, my voice also turning colder. Yes, to new tweet, listen to your own words again. To you. I was just a habit, nothing more than a servant. Except, there's no servant as stupid as I was. For you, I didn't even need my own life. Are you truly certain you like me? Listen to yourself. Do you even believe that? Yes. To new tweet's complexion gradually turned pale. Since the moment I stepped into the two family at 23, this was the first time I had seen her so shattered. She was always arrogant, always looking down from a height, yet now she displayed such a pathetic appearance, all because I no longer catered to her wishes as before, bluntly, exposing the truest thoughts in her heart. I didn't look at her one more time, turning to leave, but just as I stepped out of the studio, my phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Mother To. Speaking of her, I only felt gratitude in my heart. After all, it was she who gave me the chance to repay the favor. Back then, I had just started university, and after paying tuition, I didn't have much money left. I didn't want to owe the two family. If I could use 5 years to repay the money they invested in me, that was definitely the best way to resolve it. Both in sentiment and logic, I should visit Mother To once. Pho Trong Sing looked at me worriedly. You and the To family have long had nothing to do with each other. No need to go there. What if they make things difficult for you again? Pho Trong Sing had been raised by his parents since childhood, understanding the schemes in the wealthy circles well. He once said, there are many ways to repay a favor, not by sacrificing your entire future to drag someone like to new tweet out of a swamp of emotions. Yet, Mother To forced a young man to give up his studies, give up his future, bury his youth in a 5-year marriage. It was truly beyond absurd. And as Pho Trong Sin predicted, after a few social pleasantries, Mother To immediately shifted the subject to Nu Tuyet. The implication in her words was wanting me to give her a chance. Pho Trong Sing wasn't wrong. The issue of To Nu Tweet's emotional deficiency was caused by herself and Onduat, yet I, an innocent bystander, was dragged in to help her escape. Studies interrupted, future vanished, freedom lost too. They called this repaying a favor. They forced me to waste 5 years of my youth, then expected me to be grateful to them. Truly laughable. In truth, I didn't want it to be like that, but if only I could have continued my university studies, graduated and gone abroad. Even if I repaid the favor a year or two late, I could still fully repay the To family with both principal and interest. But Mother To pampered her daughter too much, not wanting her to suffer any hardship whatsoever. That's why she was so eager to drag me down, turning me into a shield in Nu Tweet's life. Her daughter's future couldn't be ruined by such a small matter. But whether my future was destroyed or not, nobody cared. Mother To looked at me. In her eyes, besides satisfaction, there was also a hint of regret. Satisfaction that I was worthy of being the two families' son-in-law. Regret that back then, To Nu Tweet was only set on liking Onduat, which was why she missed out on a good son-in-law like me. But now that she and Onduat had cut ties, if I could return to be the To family's son-in-law, it would also be... After hearing those words, I didn't respond. Just took out a bank card I had prepared in advance, placing it in front of her. The amount here is double what the To family helped me with that year. If not for this favor matter, I only needed to slow down by 2 years to have fully repaid both principal and interest, paying off the debt the To family helped me with. The To family had always liked doing charity, and those they sponsored weren't just me. Each time, money was only transferred fixedly to those people's accounts. For many years, the To family had never sought anyone out to demand repayment. Perhaps because I was too naive, I just happened to offer myself at their door. Now thinking back, I understand. It's just that I no longer have the heart to haggle over this. Saying that I didn't care about Mother To's reaction, grabbed the bank card and left. Mother To was stunned for a moment, a rush of inexplicable anger rising in her heart. But thinking of the Pho and Than families standing behind me, she could only suppress her rage, swallowing this frustration. Just stepping out of the To family home, I bumped into To Nu Tweet returning. Jang Treat, why are you here? In her voice there was a hint of surprise mixed with joy. I chuckled coldly. Your mother wants me to, like 7 years ago, give up my potential and career, and continue wasting my youth by your side. To Nu Tweet's complexion instantly turned pale. She suddenly remembered the agreement that she had seen 2 years ago. During the 5 years of repaying the favor, I had to give up everything, wholeheartedly staying by her side. A normal person being next to someone for a year or two might go insane, let alone having to stay by her side for 5 full years. Not to mention her attitude toward me throughout that time. Those days, just thinking about it was enough to know how unpleasant it was. Yes, Hearing that, she gripped her hands and whispered, "I'm sorry." But I no longer had the patience to hear her say anything more. I didn't even bother looking at her. I just brushed past her and left. Perhaps those words were what impacted her. A few days later, New Tweet didn't appear in front of me anymore. I also happily enjoyed this serenity. Until that day, the faux family party was held. It was Pho Trong Sin's younger brother. I also received an invitation to attend, but throughout the party, Then Nguyệt kept sticking close to protect me, fearing I might encounter any unexpected trouble. "Jang Triet, why are you here?" An ear-piercing voice rang out from behind. I turned my head and saw Jiao rushing straight toward me. After all, she was Mother To's daughter. She couldn't bear to let her suffer in Australia. After a long while, she begged Father Tu to bring her back, seeing me in front of her. Jiao's heart was filled with resentment, all because of me. Divorce is divorce, but it caused her to be exiled by her sister to Australia. It took 2 full years for Father Tu to bring her back. Behind me was the champagne tower. Reflexively, I wanted to avoid it, but slipped off the step. "Jang Triet." Tang Nguyệt quickly pulled me, shielding me behind her back. Jiao couldn't stop in time, rushing straight into the champagne tower. A loud thud rang out. All the guests turned to look, but only saw two. Jiao sprawled into the pile of fallen champagne glasses. Glass shards were shattered everywhere. Her body was also full of bloody wounds. "Jiao, Jiao." New Tweet heard the noise and hurriedly ran over, wanting to help her up. As soon as she was touched, Jiao burst into hysterical tears. Beside Then Nguyệt checked me from head to toe, confirming there were no issues before turning to look at Jiao lying on the ground. The Tu family really knows how to raise their children, running over to collide with my younger brother for no reason. My brother didn't even provoke her, did he? If I remember correctly, 2 years ago it seems it was this same Miss To along with a crowd of people who pushed our Jang Triet into the champagne tower. Wasn't it? Hearing this, New Tweet's hand that was reaching out froze midair. She looked at me behind Then Nguyệt, her eyes filled with complexity. Facing the whispering of the guests all around, Jiao's face turned even redder. She didn't care about anything else, pointing at me and screaming, "It's all your fault. If it wasn't for you, how could I have been sent to Australia?" But with her background, even in Australia, Jiao could still live luxuriously. Who would have thought New Tweet was determined to teach her a lesson, cutting off all her bank cards every month? She could only rely on the little money stipend from Mother Tu to struggle to get through the day. Because of me. Because of me. Before, who was it that looked down on me, mocked me? Then who pushed you to Australia themselves? Refusing to think anything through clearly, only knowing how to blame others, I said coldly. "Jiao, did you leave your brain behind in Australia?" Hearing me imply she didn't bring her brain along, Jiao, angry, tried to stand up to continue acting out. "Enough." New Tweet turned her head to look at her, her voice carrying a warning. "Or have you not been in Australia long enough? Sister, you'd actually speak to me like that because of him. What exactly is so good about him? Skinny as a stick, no physique, no presence. He's just an orphan with no manners." I immediately stepped forward and slapped Jiao across the face. "So what if I'm an orphan? At least I'm better than someone with no manners like you." After that, I turned to look at New Tweet. New Tweet, keep your family members in check." New Tweet clenched her fists, her expression cold, turning to order her secretary beside her. "Tong Nian, take the young lady to the hospital." "Yes." Tong Nian didn't hesitate anymore, immediately stepping forward to cover Jiao's mouth and drag her away. "Jang Triet." New Tweet looked at me, her face full of regret. "I apologize for what happened today. Miss Tu, it seems you're apologizing to the wrong person, I'm afraid." My voice was cold, my gaze shifting toward Pho Trong Sin, who had just been hurriedly called over by the butler. Today was the Pho family's party. On the way here, Pho Trong Sin had heard a brief summary of everything from the butler. He walked over, not even bothering to glance at New Tweet, who was hurriedly apologizing, only concerned with looking at me and his wife. "Are you hurt?" Seeing us both shake our heads, Pho Trong Sin finally turned to look at New Tweet. "Very well, as for today, my assistant will discuss compensation with you." Having said that, he signaled the butler to take us upstairs to rest. The party wasn't affected by this minor incident, continuing to run smoothly. Late into the night, after negotiating the compensation with the Pho families, New Tweet finally returned home. Just stepping into the doorway, she saw the house was still lit up. The servant saw her return, hurriedly stepping forward, anxiously saying, "Eldest miss, please talk to the master and the young mistress." "The young lady is still young after all?" Hearing this, New Tweet stepped into the doorway. Casting a glance, she saw Jiao kneeling on the ground with several handprints still on her face. And on the sofa beside them, Mother To was bowing her head, sobbing softly. "Father." Tu held a whip in his hand, his face full of anger, glaring at Jiao. "I see you've been spoiled rotten these past few years. Who is Zhang Triet? How much status does the Faux family have? Yet you dare to provoke them. Most of the Tu family's assets are overseas, so father too often worked abroad. Every big and small affair at home was managed by Mother To. Only this year did father to shift his focus back to the country. After listening to the Lear recount everything that had happened over these past few years. Father too felt his vision go dark repeatedly. If you don't know the rules, then stay in Australia for the rest of your life and don't come back. To Zhao, kneeling on the ground, screamed Pierre, singly. Beside her too, New Tweet also hurriedly stepped forward, wanting to intercede for her younger sister. Dad, my sister is still young. Young? She's over 20. She still doesn't think before she acts, and you too. In your head, besides romance, is there anything else? Mother. To saw her daughter being scolded, unable to hold back from speaking up to defend her. Hearing her voice, father too suddenly remembered he had forgotten to settle the score with her too. And you, mother too. I've just heard that the daughter you poured your heart into raising because of some man had 2 car accidents, and she spends all day crying for life or death. The fire of rage that had just cooled suddenly flared up in his eyes again. The two of them don't know any better, and you join in doing wrong. Your daughter wants to live or die for a man, then just let her go die. The To family isn't lacking children. Why must you ruin 5 years of youth and the money and career of a young man? Your daughter is at that age, doesn't learn anything, only learns bad things. Not respecting her brother-in-law is one thing, but daring to bully her elders. Over these years, what exactly have you been teaching her? To New Tweet heard her mother and sister being scolded, unable to help feeling pity, but just one look from father. 2 was enough to make her stand rooted to the spot, not daring to budge. You and your sister into the study now. I'll deal with you two in a moment. The living room was empty. Only remaining were the 2, father and Mother To. Father. To looked at his wife in front of him, his eyes full of disappointment. Before going abroad, he knew he would be very busy, so he left his assistant and butler, people who always followed him closely, to help handle everything domestically. Right, but less than a month after he went abroad, the assistant and butler came to him one after another. Asking around, he learned that as soon as she took over management, Mother To immediately fired them both, replacing them with her own people. Afterward, while abroad, he heard that To New Tweet had twice gotten into car accidents for her bright moon, and even abandoned her own husband. Only then did he realize that To New Tweet had been raised by her mother into a useless person. Since when has the Tu family always been decisive and strong? They absolutely never let emotions get in the way. The family is always placed first. No matter how emotionally hurt they are, they will quickly overcome it themselves, rather than relying on a man for 5 full years. And regarding to Zhao, these past years, the girl has been unruly, bullying classmates at school. Yet her mother only used money to gag the victims, never once saying a harsh word to her. This also led to the fact that when I entered this house, I was bullied by the 2 sisters to such an extent, yet Mother To didn't intervene at all. Yes, from now on I will stay in the country. If your health isn't good, just go to the mountain villa to recuperate. With just one sentence, he passed judgment on the remainder of Mother To's life. She looked at the man before her with tear-filled eyes. Do you hate me that much, father? Tu looked at his wife. If I truly hated you, then on the very day I returned to the country, the divorce papers would have already been placed right in front of you. Saying that he didn't bother looking at his wife's reaction, walking straight into the study inside. To New Tweet and to Zhao watched their father, neither daring to speak. But in the sisters' memories, father was always abroad, very rarely home. The 2 were closer to their mother. The atmosphere in their study was extremely tense. The clock on the wall ticked round after round, until finally father To spoke coldly. To Zhao, from now on you will stay in Australia. I will have people hold on to your passport and documents. Without my permission, you are not allowed to return to the country. As for you, he looked up at his daughter in front of him. In his eyes, besides disappointment, there was still only disappointment. You, because of pursuing a man? Do you know the company's financial reports? How bad they are. From now on, the CEO position will be temporarily held by your cousins, and you start working from the bottom level. Wait until you have the capability, then we'll talk about the CEO position. The bank cards for both of you will be frozen. Every month my assistant will transfer 10,000 Vietnamese dong to you as living expenses. Your shares will also be temporarily revoked. Only when you truly understand things will we talk again. Every sentence from father to maid. To Zhao's face turned even paler. Beside her, New Tweet was silent, but her hand on her hip clenched into a fist. The news of the CEO being replaced quickly spread throughout the business world. Feng Wei excitedly recounted this story to me while helping me pack my luggage. You've been back for less than a month yet. You have to leave for Italy again. I placed the last shirt into the suitcase. I have to leave. Originally, This return was only to hold the art exhibition with my classmates. The exhibition is over, so it's time to leave. The Faux family has a complex background. The Faux Trunkson couple temporarily has to stay in the country, waiting to resolve everything before they can go abroad to find me. Besides, if I didn't leave, I would definitely have to cross paths with Tonyu Tuet. Now that she is no longer the CEO, she has even more free time. I truly don't want to continue entangling with her any longer. I closed the suitcase and pulled it to the door. Thengwit hurriedly ran over, curiously looking at me. Do you still remember Nduat? I paused. Nduat, this name, it had been a very long time since I heard it. I only remembered that years ago he followed his ex-wife back to the U.S., and what happened afterward I didn't care anymore. Thengwit held up her phone, opening the entertainment news in the U.S., then handed it to me to look at. Anjiaru has been crippled. I blinked in shock. After reading the news report, I realized that after returning to the U.S., Anjiaru's life hadn't been going too well, even with his ex-wife protecting him. The Xia family was deeply dissatisfied with his actions. The rumors and gossip never stopped. Under all that pressure, Anjiaru lost his focus and accidentally fell down the stairs. Right at this moment, rumors also sparked about a romance between Xia Huayu and another man. With all these factors piling up, the two exploded into a massive argument. As for what happened afterward, no one really knows. Cheng Yue put her phone away. After all, the Fu family and the Xia family still had ties. After finding out that I was her younger brother, Anjiaru had someone pass along an apology to me. Hearing this, I just remained silent. Honestly, Anjiaru and I should have never had any connection. When I married Su Rushui, Anjiaru had already married and moved abroad. If it weren't for Su Rushui constantly hesitating between me and Anjiaru, we would have never reached this point. In the end, it was all caused by Su Rushui. Knowing that I was going back to Italy and would never return, my local friends organized a farewell party for me. In the private room, bottles of wine were emptied one after another, but they still weren't satisfied, dragging each other to a club to continue the fun. But I was afraid Cheng Yue would worry, so I didn't go with them. I just stood by the roadside, waving goodbye to them, preparing to catch a cab home. Right at that moment, a car honk sounded beside me. Zhangqi, get in the car. Seeing clearly that the person inside was Su Rushui, I instinctively frowned, taking a few steps back. But she seemed incredibly determined. If I didn't get in, she wouldn't leave either. Behind her vehicle, several other cars were honking furiously. In the end, I sat in the back seat. Su Rushu didn't say anything, only flashing a faint smile before driving off. Neither of us spoke a word throughout the entire ride. When the car stopped in front of the Fu residence, I said thank you. As I was about to get out, I suddenly heard her call Zhangqi. My hand froze on the door handle. I looked at the woman in front of me with confusion. If it weren't for that debt of gratitude, and if there were no Anjiaru, could we have ended up together? Her voice carried a trace of anticipation. Hearing this question, it felt like the most ridiculous joke. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Word by word, I coldly replied, from the moment you kept lingering over Anjiaru, it was already fated that there would be no future between us. From the rearview mirror, I could clearly see the chilly face of the woman behind me. Furthermore, even if none of those things happened, there's no way we could ever be together. As a wife, you've never truly understood me. You don't know my food allergies, you don't remember my phone number, and you've never given me a single gift. From the beginning to the end, you never once cared about me. You just treated me as someone who was optional, someone whose presence didn't matter, only because I spent 5 whole years giving my absolute best to treat you well. Did you feel unaccustomed the moment I left? No, but that's not actual love. What is actual love? It's being consistent from start to finish. It's exchanging sincerity for sincerity. It's being able to remember every single little detail about me. It's when you're determined to spend the rest of your life with me, you will cast aside all unfavorable factors, firmly standing by my side, trusting me, protecting me, and listening to my explanations. When we have a misunderstanding, you won't silently slap me. When something happens to me, you can decisively choose me without hesitation. Can you do even a single one of those things? A wealthy young lady, meticulously pampered since childhood, only knows how to think about others loving her. She has never thought about how she should love someone else. If Su Rushui understood even a little bit, she wouldn't have, while already having a family, flown abroad time and time again just to look for her childhood crush. She also wouldn't have when her childhood crush was already married, still secretly comforted him, causing unnecessary misunderstandings between Anjiaru and his wife. But I didn't care about her reaction, and kept speaking. If it weren't for this debt of gratitude, we wouldn't have met in the first place. I would have had my own life. Su Rushu stared at me in a daze, a bitter sensation rising in her throat. She opened her mouth intending to say something, but in the end she couldn't utter a single word. She just quietly watched me open the door and step out of the car. Right as I was about to walk into the villa, a strong beam of headlights suddenly blinded my face. Instinctively, I raised my hand to cover my eyes, but immediately after came an ear-splitting screech of brakes along with Su Rushui's panicked voice. Zhang Qie. The person who caused this accident was actually Su Yao. At this moment, her logic was completely blinded by resentment. Thinking about how all of this was caused by me, she didn't care about anything anymore. She broke away from the security guards, drove the car, and charged straight at me. Who would have thought that Su Rushui would push me aside? Aside from a few minor scratches, I didn't suffer any serious injuries. On the contrary, because Su Yao had stepped on the gas the whole way, Su Rushu was not only paralyzed in both legs, but also had to stay in the ICU for over a month. But before the Fu and Chung families could even make a move, upon finding out about this, Father Su immediately threw Su Yao into prison. As for when she will be released, no one knows. During the time Su Rushui was hospitalized, I did go visit her once. After all, she was the person who risked her life to save me. Looking at the woman lying on the hospital bed, with tubes plugged all over her body, I couldn't help but sigh, my eyes full of complex emotions. The words I said in the car that day, she ultimately took them to heart. But for me, everything was already way too late. Su Rushu saving me was nothing more than a late compensation. I stared at her for a long time, and finally I stood up and left. Because of the car accident, the plan to return to Italy was forced to be delayed. In the months that followed, I stayed at the Fu residence to recover from my injuries. One morning I heard the news that Su Rushui had woken up, learning that the person who hit her was Su Yao, and that she herself was now paralyzed in both legs. She didn't have any reaction at all. Instead, she became incredibly quiet. Until that day when I was packing my bags once again, I accidentally found a ring in the drawer. This was the exact ring that I had picked up after jumping into the sea back then. Later, Su Rushui used this ring to propose to me. 7 years have passed. 7 years passed by. Because it wasn't maintained properly, the diamond set on the ring had fallen off a long time ago. The band of the ring was also rusted. I quietly wiped the ring for a very long time. Perhaps regarding this question that Su Rushu asked me in the car that day, this ring itself is the best answer. Throughout 5 years of marriage, was always the one giving unilaterally, while she only enjoyed the results of what I gave her. A marriage without cultivation from both sides, sooner or later, just like this ring, will be rusted by time. Therefore, whether there were outside factors or not, if it lacked the effort from me, this marriage inherently could never reach a happy ending. I placed the ring back into the box, asking the butler to pass it to Su Rushui. Seeing the ring, she was stunned for a long time. In her memory, she had never given me any gift. The only ring that ever existed was given by her to Anjiaru instead. A friend came to visit Su Rushu and accidentally saw the ring, suddenly blurting out, "Isn't this the ring that we made a bet on and threw into the sea back then?" Staring blankly at the ring in her hand, Su Rushu suddenly remembered that day. The day they, because of a bet, threw the ring into the sea. They promised that whoever found the land in the north of the city first, that land would belong to that person. But, even though it was just a bet, they still carefully tied the ring tightly to a fishing line and then threw it into the sea. However, not a single person dared to jump down to fish it up except for me. That morning, I coldly looked at the person who proposed that bet, asking casually, "Is this bet for real?" That person seriously nodded in confirmation. After pressing my thumbprint onto the land transfer document, I did not hesitate and jumped into the sea. Watching my frail figure being submerged by the waves, Su Rushu tightly gripped the railing, her knuckles turning white. For the first time in her life, an unprecedented sense of panic washed over her, but, in that very moment, she even wanted to jump down after me. Yet the very next second I surfaced from the water, my hand tightly clutching the ring. The moment I was pulled tightly into her arms, her eyes were completely filled with terror, and also a nameless feeling, the fear that I would disappear forever into the ocean depths. Only until now did she understand that this feeling was affection, was love. Turns out, from the very moment I jumped into the sea to find the ring, she had already fallen for me. Too bad that realization came far too late. Late regret engulfed her entire being. The new tweet covered her face and sobbed. Not until late at night did the butler return to the Faux family home. Accompanying him was a whole truckload of gifts. Looking at the pile of gifts, I didn't understand what was happening. The butler hurriedly explained. He said that after seeing the wedding ring, New Tweet had cried for a long time. Finally, she called and had people prepare a full truck of gifts, saying that it was compensation for me. I quietly looked at the pile of gifts for a long time, but ultimately decided to open each one. Only then did I discover the gifts New Tweet had prepared included birthday presents from age 1 to 18. Besides that, there were gifts for 5 years of marriage, wedding anniversary gifts, Lunar New Year, Kichi Festival, Valentine's Day. Everything was prepared completely. Every gift was something I loved. These things, they could have been done with just a single phone call, yet she was 7 years too late. I put down the final gift, stood up and looked at the butler. Go sell them all. The money from selling the gifts, donated all to the orphanage. The day of parting drew ever closer. Leaving this time, I didn't know when I would be able to return. Therefore, Pho Trong Sing and Teng Nguyệt set aside all their work, spending all their time taking me all over the city. From the sunset by the beach to the highest peak of the Ferris wheel, from the candied hawthorns on the sidewalk to the desserts in high-end restaurants. This was the happiest time in all 25 years of my life. Teng Nguyệt placed food into my bowl and cautioned me, eat a bit more. Once you go abroad, if you want to find this flavor again, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult. Although they had arranged for chefs and a butler to follow me, trying to recreate the hometown flavor completely in a foreign land is truly not an easy task. I obediently nodded, eating every single piece of the food Teng Nguyệt put in my bowl. On the day of farewell at the airport, I met New Tweet again after a long time of not seeing her. Not knowing what purpose she came with Pho Trong, Sin and Teng Nguyệt vigilantly stood in front of me. Looking at the woman sitting in the wheelchair, a flicker of pity flashed in my heart. But she only smiled as if nothing had happened and said softly, "Jang treat goodbye." I returned to Italy. I didn't return to the old apartment but moved into the villa the Pho couple had prepared in advance. The two servants who accompanied me quickly began to clean. The chef also prepared meals for me, and the following week, besides gatherings with long-lost friends, I was busy finding a location to host my art exhibition. Although somewhat tired, I still felt very happy. Until one night I received a phone call, not from Pho Trong Sin, nor from Teng Nguyệt, but from the director. The director said that Mother To had passed away. She was unaware of the trouble between me and the To family, simply thinking that Mother To had once sponsored me. If possible, she hoped I would return to see her off on her final journey. And in the end, I did return to the country. Seeing the To family's mourning hall covered in white cloth, my heart also became heavy. After all, she once helped me. Visiting to pay respects was the right thing to do. Stepping into the mourning hall, I saw many people who had been sponsored by the To family. They nodded slightly in greeting, but no one spoke to anyone. In the previous call, the director had also briefly recounted the cause of Mother To's death. Truthfully, her health had not been good. After being sent by Father To the sanitarium, her body grew weaker. The news of Zhao going to prison and New Tweet being paralyzed were both hidden from her. Until that day, Mother To suddenly wanted to talk to Zhao. In her memory, Zhao was simply sent to Australia. But when calling repeatedly and no one picked up, she panicked and asked the butler. Only then did the servant stammeringly tell the truth. How could someone who entered prison receive her phone calls? Due to extreme anger, Mother To fell, suffered a heart attack, and passed away on the spot. I stepped into the mourning hall, immediately seeing Father To with white hair along with New Tweet sitting in a wheelchair, her gaze empty. I held a white chrysanthemum standing before Mother To's portrait, bowed 3 times, then placed the flower before the portrait. Staring fixedly at that photo for a long time, complex emotions surged in my heart. Regarding Mother To, I felt both grateful and resentful. To say grateful, she had ruined 5 years of my youth. To say hateful, she had also once sponsored me so I could continue my studies. But the dead cannot live again. Everything that has passed would also vanish into thin air with her departure. I looked at my mother's portrait one last time, then walked in front of Father To, bowing, "Sir, please accept my condolences." Father To only nodded, not saying anything. In the morning, I walked to the front of New Tweet, looking at her for a long time, then whispered, "Please accept my condolences." New Tweet laughed bitterly, not saying a word either. Because an immediate family member passed away, Zhao, who was in prison, was also brought by the police. After her time in prison, Zhao's face no longer had that arrogance as before. Her whole body was left with only numbness. Even when she saw me, she had no reaction at all. Not until seeing Mother To's portrait did Zhao suddenly kneel on the ground, wailing miserably, "Mom!" The guests who came to pay respects around them couldn't bear it, turning their heads away to avoid seeing this scene. The day Mother To was buried, it rained slightly. Her passing caused other families to also send people to pay their respects. It was precisely on this day that Pho Trong Sin and Teng Nguyệt discovered that I had secretly returned. Even so, they didn't reproach me, but I still proactively explained a bit to them. Teng Nguyệt hugged me, gently saying, "If you were forced to return by anyone, we definitely won't spare them." In the cemetery, Teng Nguyệt and I shared an umbrella, quietly watching my mother's coffin slowly lower into the ground. Beside Zhao cried until she was about to faint. Behind 2 prison guards tried to keep a tight hold on her. After the burial, the visiting guests left one by one. Teng Nguyệt and I left last, discussing future plans as we walked. Jang treat. Suddenly, New Tweet called me from behind. I turned my head, seeing her standing in the rain, her gaze intently fixed on me. "Could you walk with me for a bit?" Teng Nguyệt looked at me worriedly. If I only slightly frowned, she would immediately refuse for me. I gripped the umbrella handle, then let go. The rain grew heavier. I held the umbrella walking beside To Nu Tweet. The ear of the two family also hurriedly ran over, while holding an umbrella to shield To Nu Tweet, while pushing her wheelchair out of the cemetery. Jang Treat, I have no home anymore. The butler's footsteps stopped. I also stopped looking at her. Mom passed away. Younger sister went to prison. I am disabled. Father, because he wanted to cultivate a new heir, hasn't returned home for a long time. Even this time, he was the one to leave the funeral earliest. She opened her mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but couldn't utter a word. What could she say? Wasn't the way they lived together for so many years always like this, perhaps also thinking of this. To Nu Tweet suddenly laughed bitterly. But if we could do it over, how great would that be? Then I could wholeheartedly love you, protect you. We wouldn't have reached this point. I also wouldn't be lonely until I grow old. But too bad there is no regret pill in this world. I knew the sound of falling rain covered all external noise, but for the first time I heard it so clearly. My life has no chance to be redone. We can only move on, regardless of whether it's her or me. We can only continue moving forward. We will never have a chance to turn back. This is the 3rd year after the divorce, and also the first time we can calmly speak like this. Let's end it peacefully. When we first met again, I had said that to her. Back then, her heart only thought about how to win me back, completely oblivious to the meaning behind my farewell. The rain suddenly stopped. I closed my umbrella and headed toward the main gate, walking away. Let's never meet again. My silhouette gradually faded from her sight. Goodbye, Jang Treat.